I was picking it up again after another failed visit, and it suddenly started happening on my dash. And I like jumped out of the car and I grabbed someone from service and I was like, I'm not crazy. It's happening. You have to see it. Look. I'm Emma.
And I'm Courtney.
So, Courtney, you and I have worked together for or known each other for over a decade at this point.
We have.
And to talk a little bit about how we got started in lemon law, I feel like you should kick it off because you were actually the first one to get into lemon law even before I was.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had always had an interest in plaintiff litigation and consumer protection, even back before going to law school. But I really didn't know specifically what area of law I wanted to practice. It was actually when I was in law school that I first heard of lemon law because a friend of mine had a personal experience with a Volkswagen that continually failed to start. And the dealership told her, well, if it happens again, you'll have a lemon law claim. And I remember her relaying the story to me and thinking, what's that? What's lemon law? So I researched it, learned a bit about it, and became interested in it. For a lot of reasons, really, but mainly because many people, like the 2008 version of myself, have never heard of it or don't know specifically how it works. It can be difficult. It can be intimidating for consumers to take on a large corporation on their own. And so there really is a need there for representation. And so upon graduating from law school, that's almost immediately what I got into just a couple of months after graduation and have been doing it ever since.
And funny enough, the way that I got into it was actually I was a legal recruiter, decided I didn't really want to do that anymore, want to get back into law. And there was actually a posting for a position to cover a maternity leave at a lemon law firm that coincidentally was your maternity leave. So that's how I got started and obviously covered while you were out, and then you came back, and fortunately enough I was able to stay on. And we worked together for 4.5 years doing lemon law.
It was I think it was actually even close to 5 together at that firm.
Right. And then of course I had to break up the band, and I just felt a little stagnant and was about to have my second baby and just knew that I had to make a choice of where I was going to go in my life. And so I decided to strike out on my own and take a chance and leave a reliable but sort of stagnant position to try something new and something bigger. And I started that in 2018 and was fortunate enough to have you join us in April of 2023.
And the band got back
working together ever since.
Yes.
We got the group back together. And I think that we work, really well together, especially since we have even when we weren't working together, we still talked and were close. So
absolutely,
we have a combined experience of over a decade of lemon law plus a close friendship behind it.
Absolutely. And that spans many states, many manufacturers. We've worked together. We've bounced ideas off each other. Absolutely.
Yeah. We have a lot of fun working together, but between both of our backgrounds, I feel like there's an issue that, we can't tackle at this point.
Absolutely. We always go to one another for advice, helpful advice, and tackle things together.
It's nice to have. And what's nice, too, is that we share, I think, a sort of similar approach to lemon law in that we find communication to be one of the most important aspects of it in terms of knowing how frustrating the process can be and how much your clients rely on you to be there for them as they're going through this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we pride ourselves on always being available to talk to our clients. We have a great intake team, a great set of paralegals that are also there for us, but we pride ourselves on really being available ourselves to talk to our clients, to walk them through the process, to help them build the strongest case possible.
And what's funny enough, too, is that I myself had my own lemon law claim back in 2018. So it kind of gives me a bird's eye view and actually having to experience it myself of what our clients go through. I had a Honda. Like I said, it was 2018. I was pregnant with my second child and I was driving down a really steep hill and my speedometer just went haywire. My speedometer went to 0, but my car was still moving and every single light on my dash lit up. It looked like a Christmas tree. And I went right to the dealer. I was like, I know how to handle this. I recorded what happened. I took a video of it as I'm going over there. And I was like, I'm prepared for this. I know what to do. And I get there and the problem stopped happening. And they were like, oh, we can't find anything wrong. And I was like, well, I have a video of it. And they were like, well, that's great. But unless it's happening for us, there's nothing we can do for you. And I had to go through that process 3 more times before I went to pick up my car. It was in the service bay. And I was picking it up again after another failed visit. And it suddenly started happening on my dash. And I like jumped out of the car. And I grabbed someone from service and I was like, I'm not crazy. It's happening. You have to see it. Look. So, and then subsequently, they still couldn't fix it after that. And so I eventually had to file my own claim as well. So I get how frustrating it is. I get how even though the dealership may be trying as best they can, their hands are tied. If they don't see it happening, then to them, it's not happening. And you're like, well, what am I supposed to do now? I had, I was pregnant, had a 3-year-old at that time, and was just stuck with this car with no recourse until, I finally could make something happen on my own with the dealership and with in terms of getting the dealership to duplicate the problem and with the manufacturer.
Absolutely. I think we both really understand that frustration that clients have. I actually did have a somewhat similar experience. I didn't end up having to file a lemon law claim, but it was with my last car. It was a Subaru, and the key would get stuck in the ignition. When I would go to turn the car off and take the key out, it would get stuck. But it would never happen when I was at the dealership. And then similar to you, at one point I was at the dealership and it happened, and same thing. I ran inside. I was like, look, I'm not nuts, because they really did look at me like I was nuts. And how often do our clients call us frustrated, angry, and they say that same sort of thing? The dealership's looking at me like I'm crazy. They're not believing me. We actually tend to see it even more with women. They'll say, I think they're not taking me seriously. They think I don't know what I'm talking about. And we can absolutely relate to that and walk people through that process.
Oh, yeah. I've had clients tell me that they said, well, bring your husband next time. And they're like, it's the most frustrating thing that you can encounter. And even if you have like a really good dealership that is taking you seriously, this new sort of rule of I've got to see it in order to fix it and videos don't count and things like that can be beyond frustrating.
Absolutely.
So that helps both of us be there for our clients, both emotionally, right? And to give them legal advice, because we know that it's not always a quick process. Some cases are nice and quick and some take a little bit longer. So it takes some, sort of having to comfort the client, having to be there for them and support them and let them know you're working on it, you're doing everything you can, and they're doing everything they can. We just have to go through these proper channels to make it happen.
Absolutely. And sometimes there are little things that they can do to help the case, whether it's something like taking a video recording, speaking to specific people at the dealership. A lot of times we're able to help talk them through that.
Yeah. And I think that, between our personal experiences and also, like we talked about before, our professional background of more than a decade for me, even more for you. How many years have you been doing lemon law at this point? 15?
Yes, it's almost 15 years for me.
My gosh.
There's not much we haven't seen.
Right. And I think, all of that combined experience really enhances our effectiveness because, like we said, there's not much that we haven't seen. We know how to handle these cases. We know what expectations to set with our clients in terms of this is how long it's going to take, or, we do the best we can. It's not a perfect system, but also being able to manage their expectations in terms of how the process is going to go, what they can expect to get out of it, while also not being afraid to litigate if we have to. Because you and I have both done trials. I mean, how many arbitrations between the two of us?
Correct, exactly.
Hundreds.
Literally hundreds. And I think you're exactly correct. I think we're efficient. We try to be as efficient as possible. We try to get these cases settled quickly. But when we have to fully litigate something, when we have to go to trial, we're certainly not afraid to do that. And one of the other points that you just mentioned that I wanted to expand upon a little bit was the honesty, giving our clients realistic expectations of the process and likely outcomes. And even taking it beyond that, sometimes it'll happen where a potential client will call us, tell us about an offer that they received directly from the manufacturer before contacting us. And there are times when we'll actually tell them, yeah, you should take that. That's a great offer. You don't even need us. We're not going to waste someone's time and string them along with unrealistic expectations just to get someone on board with us. I think that we truly have the best interests of our clients in mind, and we want to see them have the best possible outcome, whether that's through us or not, however that may be achieved.
Right, because we're not the ones that have to drive this car every day.
Exactly.
So, and we understand that. And so in terms of, like you said, yeah, exactly. Or I've had clients that I'm like, wait and see what the manufacturer says if they're already under a certain review or things like that. But I hate to say that more often than not, they do have to come with us. But you're absolutely right that that's definitely something that we put at the forefront to ensure that our clients actually have, the support that they need. And I think that's also sort of what sets us apart from other groups in the field in terms of that being our main concern and having that effective line of communication. Because without that, I think the clients just feel lost and sort of like, well, why did I get an attorney in the first place?
100%. And we're going to give them all of the facts. And at the end of the day, it's their decision to make. If we have a settlement offer on the table, we're going to tell them what it is. We're going to tell them what would happen if they took it, what would happen if they didn't. And we'll give them our advice and our best guess as to what would happen if we continue to litigate. And at the end of the day, it's going to be their decision. But I think, like we mentioned before, we have a lot of experience. We're able to predict pretty well most of the time what would happen if we continue to litigate. And like we said, we just want them to have the best possible outcome, however that's achieved.
Right, exactly. And sometimes it's not perfect. Sometimes we can't push the repurchase through. Sometimes they don't qualify for one reason or another. But there's always alternatives that we look into to try to maybe get a better cash payment for them. There are times where manufacturers have denied the claims to us in what would be called the pre-litigation process. And we look at the case and we tell our clients, listen, if you can just go back to the dealer again, we think we can make this happen. We do different things to try to review the case and make sure we have really solid footing in terms of either getting it re-reviewed in the pre-litigation process to be able to avoid going to court and be able to get a successful outcome that way, or so that if we do have to go to court again, we're not wasting our clients' time, because court can be a little bit of a longer process. But if you come correct, meaning you have all the evidence that you need and all your ducks in a row, it's not as difficult of a process as it would be otherwise. And I think that's a bit of care and attention that you and I give to every individual case that comes in that also sets us apart.
Absolutely. And I think because we are so involved, because it's not just our paralegals and our intake people who are wonderful setting these cases up, it's also us setting these cases up. We're able to get, as you said, all of those ducks in a row and make that strongest case possible. Sometimes it means getting another repair invoice or two. Sometimes it means making sure that the dealership is properly documenting the complaints, because how often do we see that, where someone's complaining about something, but the service writer at the dealership isn't writing it down? Sometimes it's as simple as, hey, when you get that repair invoice, read it before you sign it, before you accept your car back. Make sure everything's on there. If it's not, you have the right to hand that back to them and ask them to amend that. And that's something that a lot of people don't realize. So often people will say to me, oh, I didn't realize I could do that. So we're able to do that, to build a case, to get all those ducks in a row before we file, or sometimes even during the process, during the litigation process, to ensure that we get that successful outcome. And it goes back to being honest too. And that's another part of it, where we'll look at a case and we'll say, look, we actually think you should do X, Y, and Z. And then we're quite sure we're going to be successful.
Oh, or there's times when we have to say, unfortunately, we could take this to litigation, but we're going to waste a year or two of your time. You have to hold on to the car. And honestly, we don't believe we're going to be successful for one reason or another. Either the dealership has never duplicated the problem, or it's something that's not actually covered under warranty, like an Apple CarPlay issue, which can be tough to litigate. We're not just in it to push every single case through just to be able to, make attorney's fees. If we know that it's not, we're putting a square peg in a round hole, we know kind of when to cut it and when to say, okay, this is enough and you're probably better off to just trade it in or something else, because going through a year plus of litigation just it's not going to be worth your time. And that's, I think, also something that we pride ourselves in.
Absolutely. I think it's another thing that really sets us apart. We're not going to look at everything through rose-colored glasses and promise people the world and say, look, we're going to be able to get you X dollars. This is a great case. We're going to look at it realistically. And sometimes it is a great case and we're going to tell you that and we're going to hype you up. But there's other times where we say, it's an okay case. And this is what I think we can get. We hope that you come on board with us. We hope that you sign with us, because anything is better in your pocket than in the manufacturer's pocket, and we think this is going to be good for you, but we're not going to promise you the world just to get you on board with us. We are going to be honest, we're going to be realistic, and then we're going to help you to build that case. And I think that really is something that sets us apart.
Yeah. And Courtney and I both know that while we know the law, while we've got lemon law down, we're not mechanics. We've seen a lot, so we probably know a little, more than the average person when it comes to that stuff. But that's why we also have an expert that's also part of our group to assist us. We're not afraid to say, I'm not sure what's going on here. We need to get an expert to look at these repair orders. I got to see if this is all related. He needs to take a look at this, because we're not going to go ahead and push something forward when we're not sure.
Absolutely. And our expert is great, and he is super helpful. And there are absolutely times where I'll go to him and say, hey, do you think this issue was related to this other issue? I know I've seen it before, and I know I've seen these part names before, but I actually don't know exactly. And sometimes he'll even take a look at the vehicle and he'll decide, and he'll let us know, yeah, this is something that, this part shouldn't be working like that. And I think this is a solid claim. And other times he'll say, nah, that's normal. That truly is normal.
Yeah. Big shout out to Tim. He's a huge help for sure.
Absolutely. And that goes back to something too that, you can't always trust the dealership. Sometimes the dealership is telling you that something is a normal operation, and our clients, they don't know, just in the sense that we may not always know. And it's one of the great things that Tim is able to help us out with. Is this truly normal, or is this really a problem? Can we get recovery for this?
Yeah. And he does his research. He'll find the TSBs. He'll go on the forums. He does all of that to help. So I think that, like I said, kind of bringing it back to that attention to detail that we have, and not just, filing on a case just to file on it, is really what makes, our group strong and able to push these cases forward and get a good recovery for as many clients as we possibly can.
Absolutely. And I think even expanding upon that, the fact that we don't file just for the sake of filing, I think it gives us a good reputation with these manufacturers. We tend to see the same attorneys on the other side again and again and again. And they know that we're not just filing frivolous claims. They know that when we file a claim, there's legitimately something there. And there's something to be said for that, I think, for knowing that we're a firm that if we file, there's something there. And it gives us a good reputation amongst these manufacturers. We have a good relationship with a lot of them, which actually does help to move these cases along faster and more successfully.
Yeah, I do have some clients that want that pit bull, which we can be and we are, but realizing that, sometimes having that relationship is actually a beneficial thing, because it's not like, oh, another file from them, we're, and just fighting it. Instead, having that reputation behind you is actually, I think, better than being known for just being super aggressive and super just pushing cases through to push them through, because eventually the manufacturers get sick of that and they're going to fight you on it.
But again, that said, when we do have to be a pit bull, when we do have to fight, we're certainly not afraid to do that. And there are times that we don't get along so well with the attorneys on the other side, and we certainly disagree with them.
Yes, absolutely. But that's just sort of the nature of law. And you have to learn how you fight in the courtroom, and you get done what you need to get done, and you push it. But once you're outside that courtroom, there's no reason why you can't be professional and courteous with everyone.
100%.
All right. Well, I think that we've covered everything. That about wraps it up. Thanks for joining us on our podcast, and we hope to see you next time.
Yeah, we look forward to speaking with everyone again. Bye-bye.